I'm going to call to order the Effingham County Board of Commissioners meeting this January 19th, 2021, and it's 5:07 p.m. I'm going to ask everyone to please rise for the invocation given by Commissioner Deloach and remain standing for the pledge of allegiance to our flag.
Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to gather this afternoon, and please be with us and help us do your will, Lord. Please be with everyone that currently has COVID-19. Please comfort those families that have lost a loved one. Dear Lord, I want to thank you for allowing myself and my family to recover from COVID-19, and we were very thankful to have very mild symptoms, and we greatly appreciate that, Lord. And I definitely call on you to watch over our National Guard tomorrow for President-elect Biden's inauguration. I'd ask that you please be with our first responders, all of our public safety men and women tomorrow in Washington, D.C., and please keep them safe, Lord. I'd also like to ask you to be with our first responders, our doctors, all of our scientists who are trying to administer and roll out greater numbers of the vaccine for COVID-19, Lord. Please put your hand on them and protect them during this time, Lord. And please always help us to remember a lot of our blessings that we have, because we definitely receive those through you, Lord. And in your name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on our agenda is the consideration of a resolution to approve the agenda. I ask for a motion to approve the agenda with one addition to the agenda, item 4A. Consideration to approve two additional positions to the budget of the sheriff's office, and then items previous 4A and 4B. A motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Burdette, to approve the agenda as I've stated and as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We have our agenda. Consideration to approve the January 5th, 2021 regular commissioner meeting minutes. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve as written.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Kiefer, to approve as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And our minutes are approved. Welcome those who are from the public tonight for our meeting. Ask that you keep your comments to the agenda only items if you would. Keep it ordered that way. Documents for this meeting are located in the clerk's office and have been there for a few days, and on the board's commissioner website. If you have a chance to review that and respond and ask questions or comment when the appropriate time comes. And with that, moving to our consent agenda, we have one item under the consent agenda. Item number 1, consideration to approve to renew the memorandum of understanding with Effingham County United Methodist Campground for the use of their facilities as a critical workforce shelter and/or post-event shelter. Motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Flory, to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. It carries. Old business. We have two items of old business. Number 1 is consideration to approve the final plat, warranty deed, and stormwater maintenance agreement to convey infrastructure from Park West Phase 5B, located off of Highway 30.
So I brought this to the last meeting, and it was postponed to address the sidewalk, the absence of sidewalks. So in the interim, we have communicated with the developers and engineers, and they've agreed to add sidewalks to the current phase 5B that we're considering tonight, and in addition, the next two phases, 5C and D, which are all interconnected and actually passes. We received this after the deadline for submission. The final plat itself has been amended and a note added that sidewalks shall be privately maintained by the Park West South Effingham Homeowners Association Incorporated. And the deed has been amended to add sidewalks to the list of everything that is not maintained by the county. And I have a communication today from
You
the,
reviewed this, well,
Yes.
let me ask about it.
yeah, and I communicated today with the Townsend Hutton engineers, and their intention is that as houses are being built, sidewalks will go in, so as is normal.
Subject to the certificate of occupancy, to make sure it's all complete. Okay, very good. Any other questions or discussion from the board? And then alternative one is to approve the final plat. Do you have a motion for alternative one?
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second Mr. Floyd, to approve alternative one. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. It carries. And I appreciate Mr. Burdette bringing that up last week on some sidewalks in question, because it's kind of clarified it and solidified what we need to be doing, so thank you very much.
I appreciate the staff taking care of that too.
Yes, thank you. Item number 2, in old business, consideration to approve the second reading to amend Appendix C, Article 3, General Provision, Section 3.3. This is accessory buildings in Effingham County Code of Ordinance. This is, we approved the first reading, this is the second reading, right? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the second reading?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deloach, to approve the second reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. Move to our new business. Item number 1 under new business, consideration to approve the purchase and sale agreement between Effingham County Board of Commissioners and the City of Springfield for the purchase of a property located at 403 North Powell Street, map number S105, parcel number 29.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, staff is requesting the approval of the purchase and sale agreement between Effingham County and the City of Springfield for the parcel known as the Trutman Building. The building was surplus, I believe, last month or the month before by the board. And the intent is to begin some work on it by the city to convert it into parking. Parking which could be to the advantage of the county as well, particularly on court days. Long term, they're looking to convert it into a continuous park. We've got the city manager, Matt Morris, here to answer any of your questions. There is a stipulation in the agreement that the city agrees to commence construction within 24 months, or it will revert back to the county, and also to continue to house our surplus equipment and any files that are in the building for a period of, do you recall? I think it's, I think it's at least 180 days, might be 360, but we timed it based on our needs to get the stuff out of there. Yes.
So it matches that, whatever it is.
Yes.
Sounds good. Any other questions?
And staff is recommending alternative 1.
Okay, any other questions? I'll entertain a motion for alternative 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette to approve alternative 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 2 under new business, purchase order, consideration to approve a purchase order for BOC products and services to supply mulch for 8 county playgrounds.
Yes, good evening. Allison Bruton, purchasing agent. In December, we went out to bid for mulch for 8 playgrounds. The locations are listed on the staff report. 8 quotes were received with Bliss Products and Services as the lowest bidder for a total of $27,495. The full tabulation is also included in your packet, and staff is recommending alternative 1.
Any questions for Allison?
Will this all roll out all at once? We remove, replace, or an addition, or how will that work?
I didn't hear the question.
This is all at once? I mean, they'll deliver to each individual playground, but yes, the idea is to purchase it all.
I was wondering if there's any way we could get that kind of rate for mulch for the future park on McCall? Is that a possibility, you think, or
I can reach out to the vendor and ask.
that would be great?
But it would probably be included in the contract as well.
That was just such a good, I figured the price is
Yeah.
based on so
You're
much,
saying-
a bulk price, so if we get something like that, that part of it.
Tim may be saying that it's in this contract already.
No, I was saying that when we do a construction contract, it will probably be included
Oh, gotcha.
in the specs to
They'll do
provide
that
mulch.
in the end, gotcha.
Wrap that in there, you get a cheaper price.
That's right, we can point the contractor to this vendor.
But depending on the time, you probably wouldn't want to just store it in bulk. It may.
No, but you can just tell them,
Yes.
contractor provide as needed, you know, do that and then kind of loop it all in, and then leave that rate for
That's
county,
right.
whatever it is. So that's it.
Okay, do I have a motion for alternative 1?
Motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Deloach, to approve alternative 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries unanimously. Item number 3, consideration to approve contract 21-105-003 with EMC Engineering to provide professional services for a new sanitary sewer force main.
Yes, sir. So in September, an RFP was published requesting professional services to design a new sanitary sewer force main that will connect the Hodgeville Lift Station number 4 to the wastewater treatment plant. During the design of the lift station, it was determined that the current force main would not meet the capacity that would be needed for potential growth in that area. So these submittals have been reviewed by Charles George, Eric Larson, and DOM, and the full bid tabulation and evaluation is included in your packets. Staff is recommending alternative 1.
This is the 18-inch line to
I
replace the
believe
12-inch
so.
line, is that what it is?
Yes,
Yes, 16.
the 16 inch.
16? Where did that voice come from?
Eric.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
that's all right.
He's here to answer any questions you have.
All right. And yeah, I know we've been discussing, I'm assuming that's the one it is. I thought it was 18 inch, so it's 16 for sure?
It's one or the other. I thought it was 16, but it may be 18.
I know we did modeling, it should be fine, just gonna, a lot coming up in election.
I can go back to the submittals to find out for sure if you'd
I
like.
know we beat that without trying to make sure we had the right size, that's why it's not even right. Anyway, sounds good, I'm glad to get that done, that's gonna be very helpful, so thank you for working on the workshop. Any questions, discussion from the board?
I'd like to see the quality engineering at that rate, save it some money. That's good.
Yeah. Do a motion to approve alternative 1?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Deloach, to approve alternative 1, all in favor say aye. All opposed, no. And it passes unanimously.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Item number 4A, positions, consideration to approve 2 additional positions to the budget of the sheriff's office.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, item 4A is paired with, I would guess, what is now item 4B or item 4, which is the subsequent budget amendment. There has been a need to add an additional 2 traffic deputies to the sheriff's department. His intent was to request these in the next budget year, but based on funds availability and the need, and then there also is obviously a potential revenue effect with these officers as well. Staff is recommending that we approve them early, and this includes both the salaries for this period of time to the end of the fiscal year, as well as the vehicles.
Very good. How many traffic officers does this give us now?
That will give us 6.
6?
Currently.
4. And I know we've grown in population, a lot more traffic. I'm amazed at the traffic I see coming through this county.
And now, this is not be confused, this is not our, which I'm sure the sheriff will touch on this, this is not our patrol guys, this is our specific traffic unit folks.
How many patrol officers do we have? I know one time we had like 2 per zone or 1 per zone? Or?
We got 1 per zone for 5 zones.
Five zones?
We running 8 trying to run 8 deputies on a shift.
Okay, so 10 patrol, 3 traffic, and this extra 2 traffic gives us extra backup for those patrols if we need it, right?
Yeah, well, we were looking today, you know, our crashes are astronomically increasing every year. In 18, of course, we had the snow that year. We had 1,120 crashes. 309 of those had injuries. In 19, we had 1,047 crashes, 260 injuries. And again, this year in 2020, 1,120 crashes this year with 264 injuries. Now that doesn't include the fatalities that came along with that. We're working probably 3 to 4 crashes a day that take anywhere from an hour to 3 hours to clear up. We just had one big truck rolled over on 21 this morning. Took over an hour and a half just to get the road clear back up. And with the new time management, traffic incident management system they're coming out with, they're trying to get us to move these things faster. And with these 2 officers, it'll help make that happen. Just to give you some numbers, last year, off fines and forfeitures, the clerk's office dispersed $646,810.57 back to the county for fines and forfeitures. This past weekend, a couple weekends ago, those guys wrote tickets that would amount in the average of $21,736 from Monday at 12 to Friday night. So I mean, the revenues are going to help offset the cost of it, but our biggest thing is the amount of traffic that we're getting in this county, and y'all see it. You go back and forth to Savannah, people just will not slow down and have a little patience, take your time. So, and that's why we're asking for this. What we're planning on doing is we have 3 K9 units now that's in the traffic unit, and we're going to tag 1 K9 with 1 other traffic officer. So we'll have a dog available just about 24 hours a day with another unit, can back them up instead of tying up all our street guys.
So Jimmy, the 3 traffic that we have now, each have a K9, or have 3 K9 in addition to the 3 traffic guys?
We've got 4 total traffic guys right now. 3 of those have K9s with them.
Okay.
And this would give us the other 2 that don't have dogs, so we could tie each dog with a.
And I'm sure with the traffic accidents and so forth, the police patrolling off the routes too, they have to do backup, then I would think you can have sufficient traffic since it's good.
Well, that's it. And if we have an apprehension with a dog, we have to tie up one of the street guys to transport that inmate. This way we could use the other traffic unit and not tie those guys up. So,
It's good.
our plan this year, if we can get these 2 positions allocated, I think it's going to free up a lot of stuff in the upcoming budget. I don't look to be adding any personnel at that point. Now that's subject to change, you know how that goes. But right now, our plan is not to add any other personnel in the coming budget year.
We'll do what we need. That sounds like a good addition to the traffic, because I'm sure the traffic control got to overlap a little bit and help each other. And that keeps us one of the safest counties in the state. Appreciate all.
We work on it.
Make that happen. Do a great job. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sheriff, with the areas concerned that you got listed, would the 2 officers be able to give you an increased presence in these areas? I'm looking at them now at Highway 80 in Sand Hill, 21 McCall, Jabez Jones, 17 at Courthouse, and 30 in Midland. Just from being around that part of it, it looks like those are high traffic areas, people getting impatient. Is that kind of what's happening there? They're getting impatient and just pulling out?
That's it. And in most cases, if you go back and watch the totality of the whole situation, if they'd have waited just a second or 2, literally a second or 2, the other cars would have been out of the way and they'd have been fine to enter the roadway. But that, I got to get ahead of you.
So does it create more presence in these areas?
Yes. And what we can do with our traffic guys is we can send them to that area and let them work just that area. Whereas with our other guys on patrol, they have to ride calls. So I can send them there to do that, but time to get there may get a call to somewhere else and have to leave and go to that. With these guys, we can put them just in that area.
One more thing, when you say send them to work, then is that an example like Blue Jay will call sometimes? I mean, I've been up there and it'd be a quarter mile back. And I'm thinking, boy, this would be a good place for a deputy to pull up and direct traffic for a few minutes, because people on call can't get out at all, because Blue Jay's not going to let them, and they just go on and get out.
Oh, I'm telling
Is
you.
that the kind of thing they might could do, is if you put the extra staff go to an intersection, do that 30 or 40 minutes when school's out, and people come up from work, and just safely keep that traffic moving. That's what makes people jump out there. If
That's it.
they've been there for 10 minutes, you finally say, if I get a crease,
I'm gonna try it.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want to make it something we do every day because time you're not there, then they all go ballistic, they don't know how to drive, and they forgot what the gas pedal and the brakes are for, and you mess them all up. But if we got a big situation going on, it'd be a lot easier for us to come and help move some of that traffic out.
Yeah.
But if you start doing it every day when they're not there, then it just goes chaotic.
Yeah. That's an intersection we're going to fix it with that curve off the parkway coming in there. I'm not sure when that contract's being lit. Isn't that being designed now? Tim, where's that at? The curved road off the Blue Jay on Call Road.
We're trying to time that for, there's a section of time which we're gonna have to shut down Blue Jay Road associated with Effingham Parkway. And so we're trying to time that construction of that project with that section of Effingham Parkway being built, so we can just close it down for that one period of time. But it's, so it's being timed with Effingham Parkway.
It's going to be over a year away, probably.
And y'all know, we've had a traffic situation on Hodgeville Road for several years. It's not just started, but now with the roundabout, Highway 30 and Hodgeville Road, everybody, it seems like is routing that way now. So we're just getting that much more traffic on that, in that section.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, any other question, discussion? You have a motion for alternative one?
Motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Floyd to approve alternative one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Carries. I appreciate it, Mr. Roach. I think we reached out to the sheriff to find out what these were. Appreciate you doing that. Item 4B, consideration to approve resolution 21-001 to amend the fiscal year 2021 budget.
Good evening, Christy Carpenter, Finance Director. Upon the approval of those two positions, we have to fund them, and that's what this amendment is for.
Oh, Jimmy said he's going to fund it through increased fines.
Guess either way, it funnels through you.
Either way, it does.
I'm actually teasing. I don't want to see fines just go down. We don't have a county that's known as a speed trap, and I love it. Just if you really violate, you're going to get a ticket. If you're not, it's great. I'm not seeing a way to go get them.
So this amendment is strictly funding those two positions and the vehicles that they will need and the outfitting for those vehicles. So it's a total of $184,843, and it will be from fund balance.
Any questions? Seeing the board approves the positions, I assume I'll get a motion to approve the budget funding. Alternative one.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Kiefer to approve alternative one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 5, our calendar, consideration to approve the budget calendar for fiscal year 2022. It's not here already, is it?
It's here already. So we just want to go ahead and get the budget calendar presented to you so we can get it out to the department heads, let them know what their timeline is going to look like for those initial paperwork that we always ask of them. So we would start on January 27th with the kickoff meeting with the department heads, and the wrap-up would be June 1st.
And basically the dates mirror last year's.
They are very close to last year's. You have a little few extra days in there, but it's weekends.
Any questions, discussion on the budget calendar? Motion to approve alternative one.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Burdette to approve alternative one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. That concludes the new business. We'll move into reports from the administrative staff and commissioners.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just a couple of items. One, we gave the schedule for the agenda for the workshop retreat this Friday and Saturday. If anything needs to be carried over, there's any additional topics, we did order lunch for Saturday as well, so that we could potentially go a little bit of overtime if we need to. Also, I wanted to announce that we sent out a press release today about the launch of our transportation master planning effort. We announced a in-person open house will be at the Clarence Morgan Recreation Center at the Effingham County Gymnasium, and at 7 p.m. on February 3rd. We're going to do our best. The reason we're having it there is we can spread it out and we can make it as COVID compliant as possible. But we've also, our contractor, which is Pond, has also set up an online open house where folks can contribute and provide feedback about transportation needs from the county. And that starts on February 1st and ends on the 28th. And we will be setting up a link on the homepage of the county website for people to go to on this. And we will also be setting up individual meetings with what we consider our strategic partners on this, which are, of course, the municipalities, the school district, not just things inside the border of Effingham County, but the airport, the port, those sort of things, to solicit feedback as well.
Sounds good.
When was that in-person meeting again?
February 3rd, 7 p.m. at the gymnasium.
5%.
Oh, I'm sorry, 5 to 7. 5 to 7.
Any questions for manager? Okay. Anything else? Anything else?
Oh, no, I'm good.
All right. Stephanie?
Yes, sir. Very briefly, you have in front of you an outline of all of your awards and commitments.
That's excellent. Thank you.
So we attempt to do an update, just verifying those that are coming up for expiration or have expired. You'll see those notes there, so you will review that and just let me know if you have any questions. Commissioner DeLoach, for the Tax Assessors Board, Mr. Golden Morgan is coming up March this year, so if you'd like to reappoint him or consider someone else for reappointment, we would need to get that on the next upcoming agenda or the one thereafter.
Yeah, I'll reappoint him. I know he wants to stay on there.
Okay, very good. Also, you have with you some information requested by Vice Chair Burdette on Colebrook Heights. He requested a timeline of events related to the roadway within that development. And I think he'll take it from here.
Go ahead. It's gotta wait my turn.
Yeah.
Stephanie, thank you for putting this together.
Yes, sir.
And this is going to be a quick introduction. I won't take up the board's time, but people's time tonight. I'm sure we can speak about this in depth at the meeting this weekend. Treat. Typically when you buy a home, you don't look at the road and go, who takes care of the road? You're just buying the home. Nobody would think to even ask about, is this a county road? Is it maintained by the developer or anything like that? I mean, it's just not something you normal thought process. I wouldn't go through that, and I'm not a developer, but I've built some stuff with help other people. And the great thing about this board, we have expertise here in all different areas. And glad Jamie's back, glad he's okay, we missed you. And we function well together. There's a reason why we have these different sets of expertise in different areas, and it just works well together. I'm proud to be a part of it. This has been kind of going on for a while, and not just this area, but others in Colebrook Heights. Just a synopsis of it, a gentleman was trying to sell his home, and the bank would not finance the new buyer because there's not a road agreement involved. And this has come up before, but we've done some research, and we found out that the county does not own that road. The developer doesn't have any agreement with any of the homeowners, and they're just kind of hung out to dry. The guy can't sell his home. Because the bank wants one of two things. And usually, correct me if I'm wrong, one of two things happens when you develop an area and you develop different parcels. You either arrange it in a way and get the proper inspections and turn it over to the county, and then the county takes that over, provided it's done correctly. Or B, you maintain that in some way, in some agreement, or set something up with an HOA that they will take care of it. Something's got to happen there. And in this case, neither one did. And if you look at your timelines, probably did the final plat, identified, road conditions, just ash. And then in 2019, then the developer refused to provide any kind of agreement for them, so they can't sell their homes. Then HH Investments tried to do a quitclaim deed to the county without any notice, without doing it properly, and that was refused. And now, as I understand it, it's under civil litigation. I don't want to leave our constituents out hanging out to dry and stuff.
It is a private drive. What is it considered?
Well, now it is a private drive, but nobody knew that. It's not like they got together and said, hey, we're going to make this private so nobody can do anything. It was just the houses are sold. You know, like I said, you don't think to say, hey, is this private? You don't know. But
I'm surprised they were sold the first time without
getting
the call.
I looked on the tax parcel website, and it had Effingham County as the owner of the road. So if anybody went in there and looked at the tax parcel website, you would say, county owns this road. You got a shadow of a doubt until you did the research and tried to do something with the county, and you realize, oh, they don't. So there was an error on the tax map.
Was it because the investment, HH Investments had already tried to?
I'm not sure why.
That's why.
It was because they tried to do it.
It's because he quitclaimed it to us. That process started, went to the Superior Court, then the map was changed from HA Investments to the county.
Before it was accepted.
And then then the board came back and rejected it, and then we went through the process of undoing it, reverting it back to the homeowners. So,
when was that? When was it changed? Do you know? Originally?
That's in your timeline, Mr. Chairman. So the HH Investment filed a plat on the 13th of November with the Clerk of Superior Court.
Is that when it changed on our tax map?
I'm sorry?
Is that when it changed on our tax map?
Yes, sir.
Well, then they didn't buy that property on the assumption it was county road, if it didn't change to a road.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but I mean, it goes back to the original point, you don't think that is the private road, is it, you assume the road, somebody's gonna take care of the road. You don't buy a house and think I'm gonna have to take care of this road. I mean,
If it's
Is it
a
safe to say
road, I
it was
wonder
rejected?
just what we doing.
yeah, it's an ash road, but I mean, I think.
Is that why it was rejected probably? We didn't take ownership? I know we're speculating.
I'll tell you, the reason they did, because it didn't meet the county standards, nor did they inform us of their intent to have the county take over maintenance of it. And in some cases, which I don't know if it's this case is similar or not, we're dealing with two situations right now. One Eric is dealing with, I think in your district in Mill Creek, is that the development gets started with the intent of turning it over to the county in fairly quickly due time. Then it got delayed, let's say because of the recession or what have you. Everything deteriorates, and then it never gets deeded to the county. And then by the time now that they want to deed things to the county, we have to go and get the developer to make the necessary improvements to eliminate the deficiencies in the road and the stormwater system before we're willing to accept it. I'm not sure if that was the case for this, for Colbert, only because I'm not sure whether their intent the whole time was to get it up to county standards at the end of development and transfer to the county, or the intent was to keep it private the entire time. But we've been dealing with this a lot, where situations are, roads are 10 years old, and now they're getting sent to the county, so we're making them go in there that
Is
makes
it appropriate to create a special tax district if those folks are willing to,
It could be.
you know what I mean, to fund that improvement so we can bring it to standard, not on the burden of the rest of the camp, you know, that.
There's maybe a lot of things we need to talk about as a remedy, but in the meantime, what can we do to enact something that prevents it from happening again and again and again? At some point, the developer has to take some responsibility. I've got 3 things I want to just bring up, and if you guys will put it on your hearts and your minds for thought. No matter the findings, we need to enact some new ordinances to protect our citizens. So I want to propose something like clear guidelines for developers at the building permit process. Zoning, and if necessary, the BOC level. Should abundantly clear that 1 of 2 paths must take place that I talked about earlier, either turning it over to the county or reminding them to take care of this or as a private road, or the citizen's going to do it through an HOA or something. You know, there should be some kind of resolve at that level that's presented.
I believe we have that. Teresa, am I correct? If you're going to build.
I mean, we may have an understanding for that, but I don't know if we've got that, like, okay, this is part of the system.
Well, I mean, for major subdivisions during the review process, I mean, for anything that's happened in the last few years, I can speak directly to, we look at the proposal for the road and you know, don't issue an approval until everything meets our standards, and then we do inspections, and at the final plat stage, like for instance, Park West tonight, we went out there, we did a final inspection, and in fact, that, you know, this could have been on your agenda over a month ago, but we were making them do upgrades and repairs. Concrete gets cracked during construction, so they had to make replacements. So at this stage, any new subdivisions coming through where we know the road infrastructure is going to be conveyed to us, you know, we do watch it very carefully. We do a final inspection, then it comes to you all, and we'll approve it for the final plat, and then the lots can be sold. But I mean, in the past, when Mr. House was doing this in 2005, he implies that the procedure was just a little different than that. He intended to convey the road, but that after a year of some sort of bond period, it just was not.
I don't think we would have ever accepted a road that was not built to county standards. And I know right after I came on the commission, at least 2 years ago, I worked with EOM. We beefed up the road requirements. And we do put those out there.
Yeah, but we did.
Main entrance way,
we
we did a heavy pavement versus a light pavement inside the, you know, for so many houses. Because I saw that we were taking these roads, and then they go down the main road of a subdivision with these big cement trucks, and they tear that road up, get into the outer roads, and then we've got to replace them in 10 or 12 years or resurface them. So we changed some things. I guess
we have, and we've evolved as a county, and I think we're doing good things now. But I think we can clean that up just a little more, maybe with enacting whatever we need to enact, or look at the system and see if Teresa's sharp. If she's not in the office that day, if somebody else is going to catch that through our procedure. You know, is there something that's going to be a little more fail-safe than us just doing a good job? We do a great job now, but you know, what's the system look like? And you know, number 2, when we have an apparent neglect for citizens and the well-being of the county and their well-being, we have to step in. You know, that developer should be blacklisted or something. I mean, if we need something, there needs to be some repercussions for that. If you come in and it's apparent that you didn't do what you were supposed to do, and you left citizens hanging out to dry, why should we let you continue to get a permit to do it again and again and again? You know, if there's some repercussions there, maybe they will do more at the front of it and make sure they because isn't it their responsibility to take care of that?
That's good.
So let's, you know, I'm not saying I have all the answers, I don't. I just want to do something for people. And secondly, develop something that a developer, I don't want to put them in a bad light either, but that they'll follow and do the right thing. And just, we should be able to come up with something that they can follow. And, you know, it would be not the easiest thing to enforce, but, you know, you could create something that would address that developer's company, his name personally. That way, if he defuncted a LLC and he opened a new one, he would be a principal on another one. So if you're listed as a principal in one, you can't start another one and just go developing again. Because, I mean, in this case, they could take up a civil matter with him. He could file bankruptcy if it's too much money and start a new company and do it again. And
Teresa, if somebody subdivides, 3 or more is a subdivision, right? They've got to have the road approved now, correct? We got this heavy pavement and light pavement. We've got more detailed specs. Doesn't that go through a process of approval? So they can't actually build anything more than 3 lots without coming to this board now, but the you first and to the board for approval.
That's right, and also, not every major subdivision is going to involve roads. We approved some in the last year, and there will be more this year where
They
they're.
could be on our roads already. That's
Right,
different.
yeah.
We're talking about the ones that's off of our road.
Right, exactly, and so if roads are proposed, our engineers are reviewing them, and we are inspecting them. And if at any stage we learn that they're not to be conveyed to the county, I mean, what we could do probably is include a provision where a maintenance agreement is required before, I don't know, before the plat is approved.
But once you do, once y'all look for the loopholes or the deficiencies in the current procedure, I think is what Commissioner Burnett's asking, and see if there's something we could do to strengthen that, close the few holes we may still have left. To what Mr. Kiefer was saying, a special service district is the way to fix this. We're going to fix it for our constituents. And I say that because of this. If I was a developer and went out and I put in roads in a subdivision, it's part of my lot costs. So when somebody bought a lot in a house, they paid their $8,000 to $10,000 for that road and sidewalk to enjoy. You know, but now we can't come along and charge the unincorporated area to pay for their road and sidewalk that they got for free because we come in and fix it. So I would say if talk to constituents of this area, if they want to look at that, we can certainly set up a special service tax district, put it out for design bid to fix it up. And
We're trying the civil remedy first, like I said. But if we see that, and there should be some repercussion that this guy, wherever, I don't know, if he just turns away and just does a bad thing or people, should be able to continue building this.
but if you violated something, I don't know, in 2005, did you violate a policy or procedure, I don't know if you did or not. Y'all can tell me about that.
I don't know, I mean, honestly, we're probably just as much at fault when I say we in 2005, you know, for letting, you
Well, in
know.
that case, why don't we-
I'm a big fan, you know, if a road is not gonna be a county road, it should be on the plat and say not county maintained, just for clarity, you know, just for clarity. And
But I couldn't see moving in a house and then all of a sudden, hey man, you gotta pay for your rent. You didn't call me or.
Doesn't that usually come out and do diligence, Lee?
it should, how good
That's what I mean,
should.
that's pretty common, that just know who maintains the road, where you get your water, who's sue, you know.
I know, but I mean, dealing in residential construction, the limited amount I had, and then managing properties and things like that, it's not something people think about. They just assume it's being taken. When I built my house in Effingham, I didn't think to ask who owned the road. I never even looked. I assumed it would be taken care of. It's not something you even think about.
But moving forward, I think we've got it, so we need to find the loopholes and procedures, looking back to the old things that took place. The only answer I can recommend this board would be the special tax district. Once that happens,
Maybe a shame. I don't want to just be.
Because that makes the property
It's not
more
their
valuable.
fault either.
what I don't like, and I don't
Everybody
understand,
else has to pay for it.
Yeah.
Lee, you may know, how can someone just deed something over and give it and it get recorded? I just don't see how that's okay. But I know there's, I guess, legal processes.
Are you talking about the deed that?
Yeah, like when it was just conveyed over to the county and,
We didn't
Yeah,
accept
the
it.
clerk's gonna accept it as long as it's, you know, witnessed and notarized properly. They're not gonna make a determination on what type of property it is, right? That's it. Probably
Yeah,
really
but
don't
that's-
make a determination. That's how it's done.
yeah, I get it. It's not right.
Right. When you think about the fraud, this can happen.
Yeah, and it's an ethical thing at that point, you know, and if we're gonna have somebody with bad ethics that's selling homes for people and not really, you know, like you said, the infrastructure cost should go into each lot, if they're selling lots, or each home and lot, if they're building it themselves.
I think we could have something, some protocol with the GIS department, that when something, before it gets updated there, if it's a road, okay, red flag, let's verify, you know,
Right.
maybe, just.
And we can look, I mean, there are certain cases where we update them as we find them, where we find out that, you know, even through roads right now, the county doesn't actually have ownership of. It'll be a prescriptive easement or something to that effect. But certain, and, you know, an example of Park West, where you've got most of the neighborhood is county maintained roads. But there's a section of Park West that is privately maintained roads by the homeowners association. Whether we put signs up, which, might be unsightly, that says, letting folks know about county maintenance or a private road or something to that effect, to informing folks or making sure that it's crystal clear on the GIS. This is the kind of feedback that, maybe at the workshop, the retreat, I can get us to.
Now, we gotta remember too, when we go on the GIS website, the first box you click and check and agree to is the fact that it's not illegal.
That's right. It may not be accurate.
Any of the information. But I know, I'm saying, I get it.
Yeah, it's, A, you want to do something for people, and B, has some repercussions.
Yeah.
People clearly, are just trying to do a bad thing, or, that's the two things. If y'all will, please think about
It's
that.
a good discussion. I think we can look for those areas where we can to do better. We do better now, we do better going forward.
Yeah, and I think we're already on a different path than we were back then, but unfortunately, they're just hung out to dry. It's not a good thing. Let's do something about it. I think we can do something about it.
And certainly we can do a special service district and put the residents. But one thing we can do that for like 5 or 6 years. We don't have to do it all back the first year. Even 10
Yeah, it's spread it out. It's not a huge burden on us.
Yeah, it's not going to be a burden.
At least it has some.
This is going to increase the property value of our houses immediately.
It will. And right now, they're not even thinking about that. They're thinking about, I can't even sell my home.
Is it it is an act road at this moment?
It's
Yeah.
natural. Yeah. Sort
So,
of.
yeah, I mean, it would,
What's left of it.
bringing it up to a nice road would add value.
It would add some value. But like I say right now, if you were, I don't know what the situation is, but if you got a job in Atlanta and you had to move, you can't sell your home. I mean, you can't go spend the money yourself. Just
Urge to petition the board to do a special service district and get it done, get it understand.
And that's an avenue. I don't know if we should put the whole burden on them or not. Like, we
That's
had
not
to
discretion, but that
Yeah.
we
petition.
shared some of that in some way, even though we probably nobody here had anything to do with it. But things weren't the greatest then, and some of that, let's share some of that.
We'll give them a petition and then we'll look at it and see if there's some, where we can document that.
That'd be great.
We're going to run into our hearings pretty quickly. Let's move around the west again. Is there anything about commissioners?
No, I don't have
Were they doing anything else?
Yes. Thank
Mr.
you.
Ford? You have anything from our staff? Updates? Okay. All right. I think that concludes our meeting. What we'll do, let's see. Let's go ahead and, we don't need executive session now, do we? Okay. So now we're going to approve our executive session minutes for January 1st. We have a motion to approve the executive session minutes for January 1st.
What are you doing?
Motion to approve the executive
She's
session.
gonna let us review them.
No.
Chairman, I'll abstain, I was not here.
They're all signed.
Yeah,
No. District 5.
We're not signed.
It's just to keep up.
All right, let's review what I discussed. Is there a motion to approve the executive session minutes?
Make a motion to approve the executive session minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion for Mr. Kiefer, second Mr. Burnett. Approve it as presented. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Vote that Mr. DeRosa abstains. Right. We're going to take a 5-minute recess, use the restroom, get some water, and we'll be right back for the planning board here.
Hopefully we'll catch it, which we will. We're not doing huge party. No, maybe not.
I don't see any small coming through the camera. There's a lot, we can try to find the system.
I wonder if we can, if we can flag parcel system.
We can have a list of addresses that.
I mean, we can have it on the wall.
Like,
Yeah.
don't take checks from these people.
Yeah, have it in the review.
Okay.
Yeah. Eric.
Probably
But I want to
special
just get it all
call.
real, and just fix it by going to the system. Thank you, sir.
I guess that was just my question about.
Been in the room with you several times, he just never had an opportunity.
Well, I wish you could yes.
Fred Ryan,
Well, I'm going to call, I mean, it goes to the planning board next Monday, it goes to all the
yeah,
owner.
there.
I mean, he's got
Briefing on that, so.
It's up in the White Branch
Yeah,
Road,
we're-
which is not their attention.
You're
for other
helping
reasons,
save
but there's
We have
three
changed that.
parcels getting out more, whole family council thing going on.
Yeah.
And he wants to split parcels, and I guess we're going to for finance. But it's private road, and then she's got a road
I
coming
can only
out,
imagine
so
it's different.
anyway.
Been
So,
involved, I can only imagine the deal is very different.
she probably was going to keep putting roads out there.
I'm sure.
And I think that's what we're going to see. We must have stopped it from going further, so we have to split it. And encourage you to keep putting it on. I'll
Because
call
I
you.
remember that Dan was, got all worked out about it, which we kind of similar, state, you know, where, you know, that there was a private road or whatever on there. That's what's awesome. If you're providing access to somebody's house, that, to somebody's property, they need to know it can be not maintained. No, you're, and I told them, your situation is not like a subdivision, but still, it's the same thing. People operate on the assumption that they automatically have road access to their home.
I find out someone with a big cross it.
Right.
I said, you know, I had a friend on the bad guy, who's done something to get this.
Well, Lee doesn't like it when we add. Rightly says that you can't give music to yourself, but we know they're going to start. We're not going to see another plat out of this. This is the plat that's going to be used to close it, so let's try to.
Well, and that's the thing, we can change the law, in fact. So everything that's already existing, there's nothing and now it's looking at the parcel of the sign. We can't put a sign up that says private road. You have to put a sign up because then that would have to go on their property.
Right.
You have to put the sign up that says, hey, you know.
You were not looking over your counter. It's just.
And so I'm like, this is looks serious, you know?
But I've never had a phone call about road conditions in Park West as far as, you know, maintenance on that stretch. So
Well, not yet, right?
Not yet, yeah. I mean,
But-
complaints about the road bumps, but or that's mostly internal, so Alice is she complains about every about the speed bumps. And complain about because the road down there also.
Right now, we were talking about spatial.
You know, I wish people would call us, so I was giving them phone number for them to, and let them know at the same time that that's not county.
I think she would sign up. I believe we have these guys.
That's right. These speed bumps are not installed or maintained.
And I love the flag too, that would also be the responsibility of the HOA.
Perfect, throw it in there.
Drive by, radio contact, you know, we could put some GPS units in that person's hair. Should drive it.
Still trying to get your
Stop. Access that point.
We're getting more and more.
But that's what they do all of their
You want to split a parcel into four, just stop and make yourself a decision. And we're going to on the agenda tonight, I'll be back with the final plat. And it's not something, you know, in the normal sense. So there's a pretty some interest in that, just as far as the parcel, they want to I bring it forward to our commissioners, it's not a different thing. So, at some point in the last 10, 15 years, it was changed from 10 lots to 4 lots. The 10 lots are more.
Well, I would almost, in the sketch, just part of it is through the hospital, you still have to have, provide the county with a survey, just not in as detailed as
Yeah, also,
but something that's not written on the back.
oh no, they're, yeah, like the next one is, it's a real plat, and we have them change on the back, the right signature.
But that's not a requirement for a minor subdivision.
Yeah, well, this is, it's the 4 lots or more is the
I
major.
know it's a major, but if it was a minor,
It's not as
that's what I'm
accurate,
saying,
but
is that,
I
you
don't know
know,
why
if
they
we
still
change
have
it, you could require, a kind of a formal plat, just not really, signature lines and so on and so forth. But not a, but you can actually,
Drive up and
so that it's almost like a phase in between. You're just dividing this into, peeling off a lot. It's required for every.
talk to him, see what he's got. Talk to him,
Yeah, I
see
wish.
what he's got.
But if I can get,
I know he's
if we're going to trace it now, I still don't want you to get too.
I go out.
No, I don't want to, I mean, I'm just wondering.
They go out to the field and start at about $50.
But I'm thinking, we just have a slew of these coming in, surveys. I don't have to do, we're making just add this signature block. And then they'll have soil reports for each of the lots. But in some cases, it's kind of expensive because these are really big tracts that are being divided into 4 ways. And there's no issue with doing anything now.
Right. Other than,
Yeah, for someone else or thing. So I've got a couple of the process that go through. So we want to see what we're doing.
That's one of the things.
Which you might be a little.
Are we back on?
yes.
We're going to go back into regular session, and we're going to revision to our planning board segment of our agenda. The first item was a public hearing. The planning board recommends approving an application by John Miller, agent for Danny Turner Jr. to rezone 2.52 acres out of 14.15 acres to located at 1305 Low Ground Road from AR1 to AR2 to separate 2 home sites, map number 393, parcel number 25 in the second district. And we'll open the public hearing and hear from Mr. Planning Zone first.
So this parcel was 14.15 acres, and last fall we, I was able to sign a plat to split out 5 acres, which, this one here, but Mr. Turner wishes to, or also divide these 2 parcels out, and because they're both going to be under 5 acres, that section had to be rezoned, and that's what you're looking at tonight. So this portion of the parcel is in the future going to be 2 separate lots, but that left a 4th lot of the original acreage, so this technically becomes a major subdivision. So once this is approved for rezoning of these 2 to be split off into their own separate lots, I'll be back with a final plat for a major subdivision, even though this is not what we normally maybe consider a subdivision, a major subdivision, but because it's 4 lots within a calendar year, I don't have authority to sign it. I split the first one, but I couldn't really split any more because he wants to split these off immediately.
That back property, the small one, has access to roads?
Yeah, there's an easement running through the plat. You'll see on the plat, they've added an easement, so everything is, there is an access easement from Low Ground Road to that little back parcel there. This is low ground, so this one has front access on the road. Mr. Turner has access, Mr. Miller will, through the easement, have access. And then this lot will be sold when the final plat is approved, and that'll be in your next meeting, if you all approve.
Okay, any questions or discussions? We have a public hearing, I guess, then see if there's anybody speaking for this tonight. Anyone speaking against this division? Or rezoning from the R1 to R2? See if no one's speaking for or against, I'll close the public hearing and then see if there's any discussion or questions from the board.
But I was kind of curious how they would split the two and have access, but I guess that'd come out the plat.
Yeah, the plat is in your packet, actually, and it's.
She said that.
It's shown on there, you just can't see it.
Yeah, you can see that.
As long as they got access, even,
Yeah, there is an access into it. Yeah, we able to change that, and then,
And
because
then
it,
how they would get back to the back lot after that. It was kind of confusing when I was looking at it
oh, for back here,
before. Out of that little bit of blur.
this one? Yeah, this one does have an access easement running out to low ground.
Kind of angles it across.
Yeah, it's there.
Who's taking care of the road?
They are taking care of the road.
low ground's
It's only one lot off the private road.
low ground's the road, we take care of it. We don't take care of any access easements. Nothing will change. If they're not alerted by the word access easement, it's not a county road, I can't help them. So alternative one has some stipulations here, and then a motion to approve alternative one.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Floyd to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Passes unanimously. Have a second reading with consideration to approve the second reading of an application by John Miller, agent for Grady Turner Jr. to rezone 2.52 acres out of 14.15 acres located at 1305 Low Ground Road from AR1 to AR2 to separate two home sites in that number 393 parcel number 25 in second district. Motion to approve the second reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second Mr. Floyd to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. And it passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to step down for this one for keep myself.
All right, clerk will note that Mr. Burdette is stepping down from discussion on item number 3, public hearing. The planning board recommends approving an application by Rhett Kaczynski to rezone 10.12 acres located at 430 Hodgeville Road from AR1 to B3 for a commercial site for Diesel Power Solutions LLC, map number 416, parcel number 3 in the second district. Open public hearing will begin with our zoning.
So this parcel has direct access to an unpaved road that goes to Hodgeville, but the proposal is to allow the access through this parcel, which Mr. Kaczynski also owns, directly onto Hodgeville, so he'll only be on his own property at any given time. There were issues last year with the trucks accessing this dirt road, and so he's proposing to do, he bought the lot in front that fronts on Hodgeville and proposes to keep his business operations solely on his own land, accessing Hodgeville Road. So that's the improvement that he's proposing. The planning board looked at this proposal for using an easement across the front parcel, which is zoned AR1, by the way, and suggested, and in fact voted on and made a recommendation that, in fact, not an easement be used, but that the parcel, a strip be brought from the rear parcel here directly to Hodgeville Road. So in fact, extending maybe a 100-foot strip all the way forward to ensure that that rear parcel would always have access, and it would be clearly, it would be zoned appropriately. And so they felt that that was a recommendation, and they voted to recommend that to you all. We have not advertised rezoning of any of this AR1 land, so that couldn't be something that could be taken care of without additional rezoning of some acreage here of this parcel.
You could not have an easement.
You could, I mean, that's Mr. Kaczynski's initial proposal. The planning board recommended against that.
So he's proposing to have an easement off of Hodgeville
So it was direct access
to his own.
to that own property.
Right, that was Mr. Rosinski's proposal, and that's what we advertised for, just rezoning the rear parcel. So if that's what happens, then we've advertised for that, we've proceeded with that. Planning board did recommend that, in fact, that it be a permanent strip of land, and that's another option, that was always another option, but it wasn't one that we planned for or advertised for. And it would involve rezoning some acreage. A surveyor could come in and determine exactly how much for the 60-foot right-of-way and then the buffer on either side. And
But the rezoning is contingent on having that permanent easement to Hodgeville.
the rezoning, if you approved it, would encompass just using an easement across, essentially zone property. So
Well, no, I
it's
mean,
an easement.
if we just approved the rezoning tonight, he didn't have to build an access easement.
It's just a driveway, then really across its own land, so
Yeah,
AR
but
one's
we-
own land.
But we don't have to, he didn't have to do that, in other words, just cover the rezoning tonight.
But he has to have, but the whole key was having that access directly to Hodgeville, I think.
And I think he accomplished that, we bought that piece of property, right? So,
And is that how he's accessing the property now?
He's here to-
They still does have legal access on that drive on the side.
Oh, okay.
Now, whether, that's used or not, it is a legal access.
so the access we're currently using is still legal access.
Yeah, well, so we still have the easement access to
Good, state your name.
Rhett Rosinski. Yeah, so there is a legal easement down the left side of the property, and then there's additional access through the center, really, across another parcel of land that I own across Hodgeville there.
Why are they suggesting another access? Because he owns that property and that legal easement runs all the way to Hodgeville. Why would you have to make the fellow put another?
There was some previous neighbor issues that arose last year that is no longer a problem. The new owner of the property across from us is totally fine if we needed to use that easement as access, or if to get the zoning to happen, we could zone a strip of
I
land.
understand what the board, the planning board is doing, I might get you to help us with this. I'm just saying, if you own the property, you've got legal access from your property to that property, that meets our requirements, is that right? Correct? Why won't we require another access? He owns the property in front, the property behind.
And actually, the whole road, basically, we own over 7/8 of the road is actually on my property. We gave easement
The
to,
road's probably from the property.
So this was basically resolved with the purchase of that property. That gave him the,
I think that resolved that issue that he didn't have property on the road frontage.
Well, technically, he still doesn't, because it's not.
Still
on
two
that
separate
parcel.
parcels, but I mean,
But
he's
But it's a
still.
lot, I think it's the intent more, and
That's the next question, is if you sold that front parcel after this, he no longer be in compliance.
That's right.
So I'm wondering if it needs to be zoned B3 as well.
There's a residence on it.
well, the front property is my new residence. We're putting that new house right there, but
That's
it's,
your residence on the
yep,
front property?
on the front property. And so there's 783 feet, I believe, of road frontage from the easement by the 2 mailboxes all the way across to this dirt drive here. And so we could section off and rezone that. We could rezone along the edge of the easement, all the way back. There's several options.
Lee, do you see any complications with our zoning moving forward this? Since it's two parcels?
Well, the only thing I see is the existing easement, I would think is more residential. This is going to be commercial activity, where there's going to be a lot more traffic on the easement. But that may just be an issue between Mr. Rosinski and his neighbor. And that may be one of the reasons why they were thinking to go ahead and make it permanent access. Wouldn't be an access across his own easement across his own property, it would just be a permanent road that could be adjoined or recombined with the back parcel and a strip to the highway or to the road. And in that way, it has access. It's not, he doesn't have to worry about an access easement at that point. His access is through his own property.
And we could require that it's contingent upon with this rezoning?
Sounds like he's willing to do it if that's what needs to happen. Like I said, my only concern was if you rezone this tract and to use the existing access easement, I mean, this is commercial activity, and it's going to be on that access easement.
I'm just wondering about the legal strength we have to tonight say we would approve that rezone B3, but how do we assure that it's going to be accessed through this new property and not the residential easement?
I think you do that by requiring him to have another survey that's going to add that strip of land to the back parcel.
Okay, so we can approve this B3 contingent upon adding a survey to it? Probably would work that. That's good for help.
Well, yeah, so I mean, you would require, you have a plat.
And essentially that easement there with the existing width and all, it may not be your normal, easement that you guys may be used to seeing, 2 tire tracks with grass growing in it. This thing's the full 60 feet, heavy gravel, it was a pretty big undertaking when we first initially bought the property, when we were just accessing it for residential purposes. So that road has been vastly improved. I mean, it's really nice. So, we could come and rezone a section of that, get that signed off by the neighbor. If you want us to add something in over on this other section, I mean, it's whatever.
Again, my concern is that being a commercial use on access easement, not just for Mr. Brzezinski, but at some point in time, we may have to visit this on a different location, on a different piece of property, and it may not be the same activity that's going on here. And once we allow this, it may be hard to say, well, we're not going to allow it on the next one without a good reason. I think it probably fits this area, right? It's an existing easement that's there. It's like it's probably the right size, and then based on what he said about the condition.
Yes, it's in the 30 or something.
But I think it would be easier if he made that back parcel where he's going to conduct his business, connect with a strip of land in front of it, to where there's direct access on Potterville straight back to his property, and it becomes that property.
He's willing to do that, I hear him say that, right? I just don't know how to make that legally binding if we put this on tonight. Because it's not there now. If we approve this B3, what's going to see that
Make
we
it a
actually
condition is binding, correct?
Huh?
If we make it a condition, it's binding.
That's what I'm asking, is that right?
Make a condition is binding.
Yeah, you would have to make a condition. Well, I mean, we'd probably like to see the plat once it's done, and you decide what size area you're going to require for an entrance.
Well, there's
There's a plat in there that shows his 2 proposed, you can scroll through that, it shows you how you go.
just kind of show what we're talking about.
Yeah, there's a drawing already in there.
This
Keep
is,
going, keep.
no, I don't
No,
know.
you
the
don't.
plat.
Okay, it's
Because there
in
is
the,
no plat, so wait,
it's in your packet.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the packet.
I saw
But-
it. It's on the,
Yeah, in your packet.
no, it's on the
Yeah, it's an aerial,
electronic.
it's kind of an aerial.
So there has to be a minimum which he would require, because essentially, if I'm correct on what you're saying, Lee, it's that portion would be added to the, that road frontage portion would be then added to the back portion. So then that road frontage portion would be a B3, which would require these minimal buffers. And so we could make it a consideration that since those buffer protections are there with the neighbor to the right and left, even though the left will be you.
Yep.
As long as the B3 to buffers are in compliance. So there is protection there for them.
Okay. The alternative one has, and this we'll talk about December 4th, stipulation of condition. B3 parcel must connect directly to Oswald Road to accommodate the access road and buffers. If you approve it, the way this alternative is addressed now, then maintaining a B3 zoning would be contingent upon him completing that request, right? Coming back to you guys getting the right buffers, anything you just talked about. Okay. I just want to make sure that when we approve B3, that we meet that obligation of getting connected to Huntsville Road, not
That's
using
true.
current access.
The strip would have to be rezoned to B3.
Right,
That's what number 4 is stating, right?
Yeah.
right.
Okay. That covers it.
Okay? Then we got covered the way the alternative one's written right now?
That's correct, as long as we word it as a conditional approval with the applicant's acknowledgement and agreement.
Right, and the strip is actually going to become part of the parcel. It's not going to be two separate parcels.
It's going to become part of the B3.
It'll be,
All right. Do we need to reword this at all, or are you good with the way this alternative one reads? You want to look at it real quick?
I would just reword it and state that, the zoning, if you agree, you still need to vote, that it would be conditioned on a recombination plat to have access directly to Pondville Road. Because it's going to have to be a survey. You have to be a survey
Okay.
that pulls out a portion of his property in front of him that will actually become his access.
Can we do this? First off, let me see if anyone's speaking against this tonight. Anyone speaking against this rezoning?
I was gonna speak for it.
Well, if no one's speaking against it, I'll maybe need to. But you vote to-
You have to offer it.
All right, see no one speaking against it, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. I'm going to ask for a motion for alternative 1 with 4 stipulations, and the 4th stipulation being worded as our attorney is going to repeat what he just said.
Well, it needs to actually be a condition. I think it's got to have that verbiage in there as a condition, not stipulation.
I think it's in the zoning map amendment that way.
So there's a difference in stipulation and condition?
The zoning ordinance states it as a conditional zoning. So, I mean, it's just different verbiage.
So what I want to do, so I don't have confusion on our minutes of what we're approving, we're asking for a motion for alternative 1 with the following conditions, okay? All wetland impacts must be approved and permitted by USACE. 2, second condition, the existing 6,000 square foot garage must be elevated by an engineer and certified for compliance with the current commercial building code before a commercial certified occupancy can be issued by the Development Services. 3, third condition, the existing mobile home will not be permitted for use as a dwelling and will function as office space only. And the 4th condition is B3 parcel must connect directly to Hosville to accommodate the access road and buffer. And this connection must be in B3 and part of this parcel we're approving tonight. Is that sufficient?
Do we know the parcel number
Yeah.
that you're going to be going across?
That's right, because that's going to become part of the rezoning as well. So it's
Map
multiple
number-
parcels for rezoning.
416 parcel number 3.
Oh, I can.
So this
Yeah,
this access needs to become,
4162.
right, this access needs to become part of map number 463 parcel 3.
And 2 as well.
And 2 as well.
Because you're rezoning that slither up front to allow for the road. So it's 416, 2, and 3, those are the parcels.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. The slither that crosses both of those or connects has to all be B3. Gotcha. Okay. I understand the motion. Does everybody else understand the motion? All right. I entertain somebody to say so moved.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Floyd made the motion. It was seconded by Mr. Deloach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Any passes, and we'll note that Mr. Burdette has not read this as he abstained.
Well, I guess the road frontage box checked. I said that gets our road frontage box checked,
Yes.
because that was a big
That was a big issue.
issue last
Access
time.
and needs, right. Okay, so we resolved that, we're moving to, we didn't add anything, really, we just clarified. We did second reading, or wait, do second reading next time? We're gonna do the second reading in the next meeting, since we tweaked one of the conditions. Advertise it one way, you tweak it, you gotta, do the second reading next meeting, okay? All right, so we'll do the second reading at our next meeting, we'll go to item number, public hearing. Mr. Burdette has rejoined our meeting. The planning board recommends approving an application by John H. Andrews to rezone .68 acres located at 1455 Ocean Road, Main R2 AR1, to combine with adjacent parcel number 434, parcel 21 in the second district.
Okay. This one, I just want to show you, it's, this tiny little parcel here is going to be proposed to be combined with this longer one here. But it's a different zoning district, so it has to be rezoned. And the plat, the survey has been done, and this is what it's going to look like. So it's really just combining a small piece of land to a larger piece of land. And
Can't recombine them until they're zoned.
Okay. All right, anyone speaking for this rezoning? Anyone mind speaking against this rezoning? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing and see if there's any questions from the board, comments. Motion to approve alternative one.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve alternative one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by John H. Andrews to rezone .68 acres located at 1455 Goshen Road from AR2 to AR1 to combine with adjacent parcel number 434, parcel number 21 in the first district. Motion to approve second reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Water. Public hearing, item number 7, the planning board recommends approving an application by Crystal Henry, agent for Kathy Lovejoy, to rezone 1 acre of 7.9 acres located on 126 Oak Street from AR1 to AR2 for the creation of a home site, map number 450D, parcel number 15 in the second district.
so this is a 7.9 acre parcel, and the proposal is to split off 1 acre here at the front part of it.
Anyone speaking, public hearing, anyone speaking for this tonight? Anyone like to speak against this result? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Floyd to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. It carries unanimously. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Crystal Henry, agent for Kathy Lovejoy, to rezone 1 acre of 7.9 acres located at 126 Oak Street from AR1 to AR2 for the creation of a home site, map number 450D, parcel number 15 in the second district. Motion to approve second reading.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Floyd to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it passes unanimously. Item number 9, the planning board recommends approving the application by Reverend Rocco Watson Jr. for Savannah Baptist Association to rezone 4 acres located at 1200 Honey Ridge Road, FRP AR1 to AR2 allow for the separation of the church site at number 273, parcel number 10, in the second district.
So there's an existing church building at the tip of the triangle here, and the proposal is to split off 4 acres to include that. And because it's 4 acres, it has to be rezoned AR2. The original proposal was to rezone this entire tract, and there was some opposition, and at the planning board meeting, the applicant agreed to just rezone the portion immediately surrounding the church building, and then to leave the remainder, the remaining acreage in AR1 for, possibly for resale, but that any new owner could then take it out themselves and bring a proposal in.
Anyone tonight, open public hearing, anyone tonight speaking for this rezoning? Anyone tonight would like to speak against this rezoning? Seeing no one will close the public hearing, the motion to approve alternative 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second Mr. Floyd to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. It carries unanimously. Item number 10, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Reverend Rothwell Blossom Jr. for Savannah Baptist Association to rezone 4 acres located at 1200 Greenridge Road, FRP, AR1 to AR2 to allow for the separation of the church site at 273, portion number 10 in the second district. Second reading, motion.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. It carries. Item number 11, public hearings. Planning board recommends approving an application by York M. Ramona and Ramona L. Roberts to rezone 2.88 acres of 19.23 acres located on Clio Kildare Road from AR1 to R1, AR1 and R1 to AR2 to allow for the recombination of the parcel, map number 283, parcel 4A, 33 in the 3rd district.
Okay, so this is R1, this is AR1, and the proposal is to rezone the R1 and a little bit of this AR2. And the plat shows that. They're just taking a little tip off the edge there and combining it to make a larger parcel.
Okay, anyone tonight, in public hearing, anyone tonight speaking for this rezoning? Anyone tonight would like to speak against this rezoning in opposition? See no one will close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to approve alternative 1?
I'll make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendations.
Okay, motion to approve staff and planning board recommendations. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Floyd. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. And it carries unanimously. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by York M. and Ramona L. Roberts to rezone 2.88 acres out of 19.23 acres located on Clio Kildare Road from AR1 to R1, AR1 and R1 to AR2 to allow for the recombination of the parcel map number 283, parcel 4A, 33 in the 3rd district.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Below, second Mr. Floyd to approve second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. It passes unanimously. Item number 13 in the public hearing is the planning board recommends approving an application by Alden Strandberg to rezone 2 acres out of 12.94 acres located on Highway 119 and south from AR1 to AR2 to create a home site in that number 320, parcel number 24 in the 3rd district.
So this is a proposal to separate 2 acres for a home site for a family member, and it's, as you see there, it's going to be served by an easement, and it's
Public hearing, anyone speaking before this rezoning tonight? You're welcome to speak for it, but I don't know if that's it.
Alden Stranger, but nothing
Anyone tonight speaking against this rezoning? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion for alternative 1.
I'll make a motion to approve alternative 1 with staff and planning board recommendations.
Second thing.
Motion by Mr. Lowe, second by Mr. Burdette. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. And it carries unanimously. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Alden Strandberg to rezone 2 acres out of 12.94 acres located on Highway 119 south from AR1 to AR2 to create a home site in map number 320, parcel 24 in the 3rd district. Motion.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve second reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it passes unanimously. Do have sale work. Item number 15 on the public hearing, the planning board recommends approving an application by Green Acres LLC as agent for William D. Hutchinson for a variance located on Old Industrial Road to allow for a 30-foot access easement at number 333, parcel number 2 and 3 in the 3rd district.
So as you see, the parcel is, it's back here, and it actually includes that little bit there as well. It's currently served by kind of an access and utility easement that runs back here. But the proposal is to just limit, to create a new easement running along here that's only 30 foot wide, because there will only ever be a maximum of 2 homes on that acreage, because it is currently under the protection of the Georgia Land, or the Georgia and Alabama Land Trust, now under the Georgia Conservation Tax Credit Program. So all the papers were included in the packet. It's part of the conservation easement. 2 acres were held out, so there is an existing house there now, and because the zoning is AR1, they could technically have a second home, and that is the intention, to sell the entire acreage and allowing the new owner to add a second home at some point in the future. And for that, they're proposing that a 30-foot easement would be the most desirable, and staff are recommending approval because that has been something that you all have approved in the past, where the proposed use is going to be so limited that a 30-foot easement discourages any future development. And in this case, this is under protection of the conservation easement, so it can't be developed further beyond the 2 acres.
Okay. We're in a public hearing. Let's see if there's anyone speaking for this tonight first.
James Presnell, on behalf of the Hutchinson. James Presnell, on behalf of the Hutchinsons. I'm here if you have any questions about this.
Okay. Anyone not speaking against it, or anyone speaking against this variance? Okay, before I close the hearing, ask some questions. 30-foot easement, we need to require 60. Why would we? You okay with this?
Well, are both parcels, or is that one tract? Is it 2 tracts or one?
It's one tract. That yellow portion has been called out. The language of the conservation easement allows for 2 acres to be maintained for the home site. And so that's just, it's not really a plat, that's just, Mr. Hutchinson just called it out there in yellow just to show where the home site currently is located and where the easement would be, what the easement would be serving. There won't be any other development because it's under protection of
There
conservation.
could be one more, right?
That
lot where the yellow is, there could be one more house back there.
There could be one more house given the zoning and assuming health department approval of septic and all.
How about the property on the other side of the road? That easement.
The property, I mean, this is all under well, this
How about the other side of the easement?
To the, yeah.
there.
Yeah, how about that? Could that be developed in the county?
Yes, it could. It's currently not in, I mean, the land on the other side where the red arrow is, that won't be served by the easement. It would have to have its own. I mean, they could.
It was totally on his property.
Yes. Yeah, in fact, that's a condition that the 30-foot access easement shall be for the sole use of the parcel in question.
You said solely be on this piece of property you're pointing at.
Yeah,
Okay.
serving that, and we made that a condition, that could only serve that And there's a tiny bit up there, that's the other part
So
of
that
this.
property to the left has to have an access easement already somewhere.
This is a road here, so this tract does have access to this road. It's not currently developed. I mean, this is all one tract here,
I got you.
and it's got frontage, so any development of that they would have to take care of that themselves.
So this can only be 2 homes. Are you good with 30-foot easement experience?
I am, as long as it states that, yeah. That's the only thing I was gonna say, is that it's conditioned on 2 homes only. That way we don't get in a situation where it ends up where 20 folks want to use that easement later down the road, so,
So I know you're saying that the restriction of the land only allows for 2 homes, but some, I'm attorney may need to add number 4, condition upon 2 homes only. Is that what you're saying?
yes.
All right. Understand what we're doing? We're just going to add that as a condition. 2 homes is what I think the restriction of the land
But
use.
does
The restriction of the size,
I'm sorry.
the restriction of the size of the lot, 2 3/4 acres, being A or 2, that's all you can have anyways. So you don't have to really put a stipulation in there because you can't add more. The rest of the property of the 40 acres is all a conservation easement. You can't get outside that little yellow box. So you wouldn't have to add any other stipulations in there if you've already got it via the zoning that it fits.
It would be redundant,
Roger that.
Yeah, it's all AR1 at this
I
time.
guess. Pending the
I
attorney.
just wonder if conservation easements are, at some point, they expire.
This one is not.
It's in perpetuity?
Yes, this one is.
That's a new one on me. So that's my only concern is that, just for that very reason. And again, it should be 60 feet, but you're asking them to make it 30, so I think it's a fair condition, which I think it's already.
It just covers, probably a promise and a covenant on top of it, just to make sure.
That's all. I mean, if you're comfortable with
No, I get what you're saying. Because it is serving that conservation. That's one of the parcels, right, that it's serving.
Right, and then too, you gotta think, well, what happens when the folks, what about that big parcel, if you're looking at that behind the board there to the left, who owns that?
It's a different owner.
Right. Is that?
And they have road frontage that they
It's
can make
not.
their own access.
Right, but you know how this works, when somebody wants to develop that, and hey, we have this one over here, and they don't want to spend $20,000 to cut through that to create a road, they're gonna ask about this one. So that's why we look at these things, not just how it affects now, but 50 years from now.
The owner on the front, Mr. Woods, would have to approve it.
Right, but he may die and be gone in a year, and the next person that gets it's like, yeah, I'm fine with that. Pay me a certain amount of money, and you can use that access even all you want.
So listening to our attorney, I think we're probably putting that condition, just moves the second reading and maybe redundantly protects us. So I would recommend, any other questions, discussion, for call for motion? Close the public hearing and call for a motion for alternative 1 with the 3 conditions that staff and planning board have given us, with adding the 4th condition, limiting to only 2 home sites on this property. Is that the way to word it? Okay. Someone say so moved. I think I got it.
200 move, yeah.
Second.
Who made the motion? Mr. Loach. And second by Mr. Burdette. Okay. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. And passes unanimously. Okay, and we'll move the second reading to the next, but basically it's been approved, we'll just move the second reading to the next meeting since we had that condition.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 17, the planning board recommends approving an application by Craig Edison to rezone 5 acres located at 235, excuse me, 2354 Low Ground Road, from R1 to AR1, to allow for a second dwelling for an immediate family member map number 372, parcel number 3 in the 4th district.
So this parcel is 5 acres, and the owners have the option of either splitting it to add a second home or rezoning it from AR1 from R1 to AR1, and they opted to not split it, but to just rezone it to AR1 so they can have a second home for a family member.
Okay. Open public hearing, anyone speaking for this tonight? You're welcome to speak, but I'm not sure it's going to be necessary. We'd like the public speaking.
I'm Kimberly Addison, I'm the wife.
Anyone speaks against, you might want to come back up, okay? Anyone like speaking against this zoning? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and then entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All in favor no. And it passes unanimously. Okay. The second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Craig Addison to rezone 5 acres located at 2354 Low Ground Road, from R1 to AR1 to allow for a second dwelling for an immediate family member. Map number 372A, parcel number 3 in the 4th district. Motion for second reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette to approve the second reading. All opposed say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. And it passes unanimously. Didn't have to say a word.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 19 for public hearing, planning board recommends approving an application by George Bishop for conditional use located at 377 High Bluff Road to create a cemetery for family use on parcel zone AR1, map number 459, parcel number 66 in the 4th district.
So the proposal is to section off some acreage in the front of the property for a family cemetery.
Open the public hearing, and this is the conditional use. Let's see if there's anyone speaking for this conditional use tonight. Would you like to speak?
I'm Mr. Bishop. I don't have to say nothing if you don't need me to.
I don't know if it's necessary because I think you've got all the compliance to be able to do this. Let's see if there's anyone not speaking against this. And I'll just see if there's any discussion from the board before I close the public hearing so we can give an opportunity to vote on it. Hearing now, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deloach to approve as presented. All opposed say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. And the conditional use is approved. Second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by George Bishop for a conditional use located at 377 High Bluff Road to create a cemetery for family use on parcel zone AR1, map number 459, parcel number 66 in the 4th district. Motion to approve the second reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Floyd to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. And it passes unanimously. I don't see any other business on the agenda, so I'll just see if, real quickly, is there anything else we need to address or cover tonight? Anyone?
One thing I was going to mention, on everybody's time, when Mr. Deloach was out trying to communicate on the phone and stuff, is where if we come up with any really good solutions for us to be able to call him.
Well,
Like for the future,
Back
not
we did.
for now, for the
No,
future.
I can address that. I mean, it's dependent if we want to do something immediately here or wait till we get to the new facility. I can tell you that it's going to be integrated into the new facility.
Okay. I'm fine with the new facility, everybody else is, but there's definitely a need.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I think we discussed the new facility.
Yeah, it's a huge, it's something really, really good where you can actually communicate, even if it's maybe Zoom video, something that
That's
really
right.
get someone there. Somebody cares enough to call in, and he's sick and he's calling in, he's doing what he needs to do to be part of this, and you can't even hear what's going on.
And like I said, as a matter of fact, we're meeting with the contractor this week to discuss the needs.
And make
just for that.
make it where we can expand upon it in the future, because technology changes every 2 years.
That's right.
Just want to throw it out there. I'm not mad at you trying to communicate, you figure out what you do, and you can't.
Real quickly, from Human Resources, for us old folks, can you give me first on that Medicare supplement, we can save the county some money?
I've
People
got,
like Reggie and I,
Yes, sir, I've got some.
Medicare insurance.
I've got some information on a supplemental plan about what it would cost, and I can put that together for you.
Yeah, I'd like to get that for the board, because down here, we might save the county some money, and keep up the coverage for us old folks.
Yeah, there's one little hiccup in it, we can talk about it at the retreat too.
Sounds good. All right. All right, anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Before we dismiss, just for the record, we can note that Mr. Loper is not present for this meeting tonight.
I did that very good.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Have a good night.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, motion by Mr. Deloach to adjourn, all in favor, second by who? Mr. Burdette, all in favor of adjournment, say aye. All opposed, no.